Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you may be joining this meeting from. This is the third training session of the Oath for Sustainability Network Climate Change and Health Research Training Program. So I can see that so many people have been joining, but please, as you're joining in, introduce yourself in the chat and where you are joining in from, so that we'll be able to, meet with you. If you want to share your bio, your social media link for people to connect with you, please do that. We'll be starting shortly. So please just stay tuned. So many people joining in from Nigeria, Gambia, Zambia. That is really amazing. Please continue to share your name and where you're joining us from. This is from Pakistan, Melissa from Cameroon. That is really, really amazing. So we're starting now. So once again, welcome everyone. And today I'm hosting this meeting with the OFSN Internal Communications Lead at Himi Oladeji. He will be handling the Q&A session. I can also see that our speaker for today, Hajar Chams Eddine, is here. So the third training session today is majorly on data collection and management. So on Thursday, the last training we had, we were able to explore different research methods. And our last speaker, Dr. Balike Zaitoun, she introduced us to all the important research methods that is most common in health research. She also introduced every one of you to the finer method of making sure that, the finer method that I'm mentioning is not just like, I don't mean fine, I mean like it's an acronym for you to make sure that your study is feasible. She shared that method from the WHO Health Research Guideline, which we have shared the resources with everybody. She also tried to let every one of you explore the options of, working together in a group and creating a topic and making sure that every one of you get what she is trying to say. So for today, I am going to be introducing our speaker who is going to be taking us through data collection and management. So our speaker today is the core contact point of the Yongo Health Program. She's also a PhD candidate in Morocco. She is focused on climate change and health research and disability inclusion in climate change research. So for today, we have an amazing speaker, Hajar Chams Eddine. She has been here before, and trust me, in the next 45 minutes, you guys are going to see what I'm talking about. So Hajar, over to you.
Thank you, Damilola, for the introduction, and thank you for the organization. Happy to be here in the second cohort of the OFSN research lab. So I'll be happy to present a data collection and management session today, and you will see that it's much more coming from practice than theory. And I'm sure that Dr. Balkis had a great session with you last time. So I'll just go to my second slide. Okay, so I will have three major three slides in this presentation, and the fourth one will be an interactive session where you will have to, you will get the chance to practice. We will see first data collection methods, fieldwork preparation, and data management, and finally interactive segments. So first of all, we just start from the starting point, data collection methods, and how you would like to, where you will start from, where you will bring your data. First of all, when you want to answer research question, you start from literature reviews. You go through reviews and see what other people has been doing for the past few years in research. And a great place to start from is the reviews. I highly recommend to look into meta-analysis reviews if there is any available in your research question. They tend to be like highly focusing on data availability, on associations, on correlations. They focus a lot on the statistical part of data, so they are a great source to start from and to understand like the data already available and how people gather data in previous studies and what are the limitations they found. So you can start from there and try to correct these limitations and according to your context. So first of all, you start from literature reviews, secondary sources, anything related to reports, policy briefs, documents from CSOs, where they already did some work. They are not really academic, but they come from the field, because these are the ones who are much more like have the bigger understanding. Because in the climate and health intersection, a community should be in the center of the research. And these are tools, they are like a big start, like an interesting start to understand the data collection process. Then you will start your own data collection, which will be the primary source of your study. And there you can use surveys, interviews, focus groups, observation in some cases, in some research questions, and you will use digital tools like Google Forms, Survey Monkeys. I'm sure that you are quite familiar with these, but just to make sure, in these digital tools, they are very interesting in how you choose your tool, because Google Form is free. If you have Microsoft Form, you have much more options, but sometimes you can face access issues from people who don't have access to, like, are not familiar with the Microsoft Forms. Survey Monkeys are also a very good option, and they are used a lot with in studies. But also there is another one that I didn't mention here, is Qualtrics Forms, and these are used a lot in very big scale academic studies. They are you can pay when you go above 1,000 participants, I guess, but they have great options in visualizing the data when you after the collection, so you can use it also in the analysis. But for the choices in interviews, focus groups, it depends on what is the type of the data you would like to gather from the participants, and this is major in how you want this data to look like. So it depends on your research question, and this brings us to how you would like to prepare to the field work and to the actual collection. So very important tips in preparing for the field work. You need to understand the culture, the background, the history of the communities you are going to, especially if you are not from this community. You make sure, if you are not from this community, make sure you have someone else who have an understanding for the local culture, for the background, for their own issues. Make sure that you don't have a language barrier. And when I say a language barrier, you may also, both of you speak in English, but not the same English. Don't use very sophisticated, developed vocabulary that will create a glass wall between you and the participants. Try to, if you are going to local traditional communities, make sure that you are wearing clothes that are appropriate to this community. Sometimes the focus you have, for example, I'm just giving an example from the field, you have, or we are organizing a focus group in a village, in a very remote area. You will not be going the same way as you are going to a conference, because you are already creating this barrier between you and the participants, and you will not be able to gather the information from these participants. So this is a way how to build contact. You are not going straight into the focus group, straight into the question grid that you prepared, but you need to, first of all, make sure that they are familiar with the question you are asking. Make sure that they understand. For example, you are bringing climate change questions. What is climate change? They need to understand what is climate change, not in a very developed and complex explanation, but it's also good for you. So to understand what is their understanding for climate, so you can understand their answers, and you can bring this up to your analysis and discussion in the research. So these are very important parts and tips in the fieldwork preparation. Logistics and safety considerations. If you are going to somewhere you are not familiar with, you need to make sure you have the transportation, you know where to stay, you know what is any safety considerations for you and for the team who is gathering the data. So this is also very important. Ethical considerations. Any research when it's health related and it's a human subjects, you will usually go through an ethical committee. These ethical committees, they ask you to elaborate and in a consent form. You will need to respect privacy, confidentiality, and respect the humans that you are involving in your research. So you need to explain this to your participants. You need to explain what is the content of the consent form, and if they are signing it, if you are just gathering a list of the presents. These things, they should be explained at the beginning of the focus group or the interview before you start gathering, and also always make it clear that they can retrieve from the session whenever they want, because they are there voluntarily. You want to understand their issue. You cannot force anyone into the session for the data collection. Also, at the end, ask again, is everyone is comfortable with the discussions that happened here, and make sure that remind them that this will be anonymized. You will not have your names or any personal information. So they give you again consent before leaving the room, because it's very hard to again reach out to the people who participated. So what is the main takeaway from this part is also always tailor your data collection to the people you are going to, not the reverse way, because you whatever research question you have, you are the one to adapt to the people, not the other way. So consider culture, language, safety of your team and the participants you are engaging. So this goes to, now you finished the field preparation, you went to the field, you met the people, you collected the data, you need to organize the data before starting the analysis. So this can happen either at the same time with the data collection or after the data collection. I personally prefer to do data management at the same time with the data collection, because while doing organizing, cleaning, you realize what is missing, and you still have the opportunity to collect what is missing from the ground. While if you wait until the end and after the data collection phase and the fieldwork phase finished, it's too late to collect any new data. So make sure that you are storing well your data. You don't want to lose 3 weeks or 3 months or 6 months of field work and collection just because your laptop froze and you didn't have a backup. It is very, it's something that we can easily miss, but it is something crucial in research. You don't want to miss to not have any backup strategies. So use multiple emails. I use 3 emails, 3 copies of data, and I try to copy the new version each time, like after like a couple of 3 days of collection. So I always have the recent version. And also, if you have hardware and you can put it there, it's always a good option. But sometimes when the data is too big, you cannot use that. So always do a backup. I cannot emphasize that more. After now you are done, you have your data stored, you will need to clean the data. You need to understand what is the missing data, where are the errors, and so you identify them and you correct the errors. In this data cleaning, it depends on how much you are comfortable with automated solutions and programming solutions. You can do the data cleaning through softwares, but also if you have like a much not really large database, and you are, for example, using Excel, you can use some options of data cleaning that are available there. Excel has very good and sophisticated tools to manipulate data. There is a lot of resources there. Just learn how to use Excel, because it's not as easy as it looks like, and simple, but it can be used in data cleaning. So this part is more you can do like an initial cleaning, but there is always more developed and automated options if you are comfortable with softwares and statistical methods. For the data organization, this is very important. If you are collecting data with other members of the team, you will at the end collect all your data in one drive, for example, and you would like to recognize the file from its name. So always make sure that you are naming the file in the same way. And this is something that you will have at the beginning when you are doing the capacity building on the data collection. You agree on the codes, how you name your files. So each file, for example, and here I'm giving you just an example, this file will be a focus group with the date, with the location. So whenever I go into the file of focus group notes, I know which one, in which date, and which location, because sometimes if you are first, you are checking if you went to all the locations and you did all the focus groups based on your initial plan. But at the same time, sometimes you are doing an analysis by geographical zones, and you will just go to the files you need and use them. This is very, very important. And metadata management, it's data about the data. So this is what I'm talking about. And usually if you want to organize your names, you don't leave them as files in the drive, but you create an Excel sheet where you have, for example, this sheet is for interviews, individual interviews, and this sheet is for focus groups, another one is for surveys, and you have data about your data, who collected it, where, the date, and where is located with the link to the note file. So when you have this final management, it is clean, it is organized, you know what it is named well, you can easily go to the data analysis, and it's very easy to do the analysis. Just from experience, the data cleaning and management can take up to a week, and the data analysis can be done in 2-3 days. So it's very easy to do the analysis after doing the data management. And now you will have very simple opportunity. I don't know if you can do Damilola, if you will be doing breakout rooms, or it's just like a group discussion. It wouldn't be a group discussion. I see 100 participants here. Probably, I guess. But this is something that I guess the researchers are organized in research teams as last cohort.
No. So
Not.
everybody on this training session right now, they are just, undergoing the training session first. The research
Oh,
mentorship program is going to come in later. So what we are going to do is we would facilitate the breakout rooms, but everybody will join randomly. So you
Okay.
can just we can give them a topic, or we just tell them to, come up with a topic,
Yes.
and they will answer all the questions that they would need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is something that you can do in this session, but at the same time, when you are organized into research teams where you will be working on your research, this is a good practice at the beginning before going into data collection, the actual data collection, because this is something that I may have mentioned before, but before starting here, you designed your questions, you know where you will go, you need to do simulation. So the interviewers, the people who will be conducting focus groups and interviews need to try the setup and try to ask questions, because sometimes when you ask the question, you will realize that it's not as simple and understandable, because you are the one who wrote it, you know your research, but the person in front of you may find the sentence more complex grammatically or not understandable. It's bringing some terms that are not easy. So you need to do trials and iterate on making your questions better. And this exercise is a good way on create questions and make like you are the one asking it in a focus group, and also try to create scenarios. If this happens, what will be the solution? And if this happens, sometimes you go to a first focus group, no one shows up. It happens. What will be, you will not have to freak out, but you need the number of the people who were supposed to be in that focus group. You will need to like find another organization or the same organization you are working with, and try to find another group for the focus group, because you are like linked to a timeline, because you want to, at the end of this timeline, I want, for example, 20 focus group, but one didn't show up, so I will have to create another one. And this is how you handle like the unexpected challenges in the field. So my session here is done. Now your work starts, and try to create questions and different scenarios for your research of choice. But yeah, thank you so much for your attention, and I will be here for Q&A also after your discussion. Back to you, Damilola.
That is great. And thank you for going down into the nitty-gritty details of the data collection. So what we are going to do is we'll do a little Q&A session before the breakout rooms will be opened for everyone to join. So I can see some hands up already. So if you have any question, please raise your hand and you will be asked to unmute, and then you ask your question and Hajar is going to take it. If any other person has question and you cannot maybe unmute yourself to speak, you can just put your question in the Q&A session and then we'll be taking it from there. So Rekik, you are up.
Good afternoon. My name is Rekik from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Thank you once again for this opportunity. The presentation was very amazing. My question is just in regards to attendance and participation link. Are we going to fill attendance form, or is it just the active participation that's going to be counted? And the other question is that because of work, I couldn't attend the last two sessions, the introduction and the research part. So what are the options in order to justify for our absence and to be validated. Thank you so much.
So we are going to take that question at the end of the session. So the Q&A that we are taking right now is for the training session we just had. What questions do you have for the speaker regarding the data collection and management that she has just taken us through? So I am going to ask Tanzir, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, your name and where you're joining from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanzir. I'm from Dhaka, Bangladesh. So it's my first day joining here because, as you all know, that Bangladesh is going through a political turmoil. So a lot of things, and there was like a lot of internet shortage. It was really tough for me to join. And also I saw a text in the group that you said at least I have to join for, I don't know like how it will be solved because the political situation now it's stable to join. And also, why did I join? I'd like to share because it wasn't the first time. When the first session was held, I saw the YouTube videos. I mean, the recording session, it was really helpful. So I'm working as a researcher at Brack University, Bangladesh, and currently I'm co-leading the Climate Change and Research Hub, CCEH, and also we are doing a lot of mental health intersectionalities and climate change, of course. So we are ongoing 2 projects, which is basically on climate change adaptation. So I think as a youth, it's really important to, exchange our knowledge from global south and global north. We have to collaborate action. For that, I am joining this session. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who are joining here.
Okay, thank you, Tanzir. So there are a couple of questions in the chat. And I am just going to take some of them now. Just like I said earlier, if you have questions, raise your hand. You will be asked to unmute, and then we can take some of your questions. But from the chat, Abdi Kevin said about errors or incomplete surveys. What about those who use statistics tools that collect automatically incomplete values? So I guess what he's trying to say is, how exactly do you solve that problem?
I think for the income, if it's automatically collected, it means it's not collected, it's generated first. So I personally prefer to not use this like if there is an option to eliminate the generated ones, it will be good. But also within the discussion, there is always, whenever you are collecting the data and doing the analysis, and you found some missing data, you find some you did some cleaning, this always should be mentioned in the discussion. You mentioned that there was missing data and we did generated it automatically, and this is how we changed the original data. And for example, let's take an example where you had generated data based on other answers. So here you need to make sure to understand how this model is generated and what is the data that used at the beginning, and if there is any patterns in this data, because these all are things that can be interpreted in the discussion and the analysis, but you should not consider them as data collected from the ground, because they do not reflect like 100% what is the participant's answer, but can be used as sort of scenarios, or this is generated, so this can be a recommendation, or can be or a prediction of what happened in this phase. So it just depends on your research question, but always mention that you use the tool, because if you go into like any research paper and you go to the methods and to the discussions and the analysis, you see that it is mentioned what tool is used and sometimes what code is also executed, and you need to mention it and analyze it. So and this is something, yeah, you always need to keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So, Ayango Susan, please unmute yourself, your name, and where you're joining us from.
Thank you so much. I'm called Susan Anyango. I'm a midwife from Uganda. I wanted to ask on the data, in case like you have put your sample size and due to some reasons you have not managed to collect the data from all the sample size, maybe you have done half or like more like 3/4. Is that data allowed for interpretation, or you need to make sure you have collected the data from all your sample sizes? Thank you.
Aja, did you get our question?
I think I didn't, because my screen was frozen.
Oh, okay.
I started the first question, like the first bit, but I didn't listen to the rest of it. If you can please, I'm sorry, because it's windy here. If you can say the question again or just recap it.
Thank you so much. I was saying I'm called Susan Anyango. I'm a midwife from Uganda, and I wanted to inquire, in case you fail to complete the data from your sample size, is it ethical enough to analyze that one that you have gotten, or it's a must that you should finish all the sample size before analyzing the data? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Now I heard you well. So you can start the data analysis at the beginning, but this will just give you an understanding of what the data is bringing. So this will not be the final analysis that you will be using in your research. But for example, you started the collection and you started the data analysis in the first part. But make sure that the second part will not be it's not bringing the same information, because if it's bringing, like, if it's complementary, you will need to do the data analysis again. But it never hurts to do data analysis in the first part before ending the data collection, so you can understand if there is any patterns. Sometimes when you do the analysis, that you realize that you need to add another question or do more clarification in the data collection, but at the same time you do the analysis, like the final analysis will be the one that you will do at the end when you finish all the data collection and you have everything available. But it never hurts to do some analysis, or sometimes you don't do like an extensive analysis, but you just go through your data and try to analyze and like make a mind map of what are the possible options and the possible answers. Try to cluster, because I'm coming from a social sciences background, I always think of we can cluster like answers in thematics and see, for example, we are discussing climate change, and you can like have the observation that in this region there is water thematic coming up more, and this other one there is gender thematic that is coming up more. So you can do an initial analysis always, of course.
Yeah, that is amazing. Alim Nathan, before you go on, I want to take 2 questions from the chat. So Elfreda said, please, aside from Excel, what tools can we use to analyze and clean data? Seems like you're muted, Hajar, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, because I mute from my keyboard. So for the data cleaning, it depends on what tool you know how to use, because the options at the end are the same. It just depends on how much it is developed. For personally, I've been using Jamovi, which is very basic, user-friendly software where you can do data analysis and data cleaning. You can manipulate data there without using any code. They have everything set up for you. You just upload your data set and find the functions that you need. So this one is very easy. If you just want to understand your data, you don't want to do any further any like more complex analysis or that and cleaning, because anytime you have a software that does cleaning, you can do also that's analysis, you can do also the cleaning, like almost, not everyone. I use data if it's economic data. Stata is also
I didn't
one.
get that. Could you try again?
So I can type them because it depends on the type of data you are analyzing. Jamovi is one very user-friendly, no code needed. Stata is one that is used more for economic data, econometrics analysis also. There is Atlas TI, which is more used for qualitative data. It is, I think you need a license for that. If your university or organization have a license for that, you can use it, because you can use it at some point, but you cannot exceed like a number of pages in each file. So if sometimes if it's not paid, it will be limiting. I think these are the ones that I used. I don't have like more like further developed Python skills, for example, so I never used it. But if you have that, it does wonders. So yeah, I think I will just type the softwares and add each one for which type of data.
Yeah, it would be great if we could get the links as well, so we can add it for the participants in the resources later. Okay, so another question from the chat from Elaine Eustace. It says, when collecting data on non-speaking species like trees by observation, how do you go about the field trial?
I think in this part, I can be much more talking about you managing the data and organizing it, but I never collected data on non-speaking species. I usually have only interactions with like humans and social aspects. But what is something that I will be definitely emphasizing, as I said earlier, is make sure that you are you have an organized data set where you are collecting the same data again and again. And if you don't have it, you couldn't, for example, do the observation, or you couldn't collect this type of data, you don't have an information, add notes to what is the context, why you couldn't add like collect this type of data. So this is something that can be useful later on in the analysis and in mentioning what are the limitations that you found in the data collection. But I don't have any, I never collected nature like from the nature data.
Yeah, that is great. So Aline Nathan, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Nathan Alim from Nigeria. So I would like to know, right, when a researcher, how can a researcher ensure that the data quality and integrity they are collecting when they are collecting information from diverse sources for study, like how can they ensure that the data they are collecting, the quality of it and the integrity of such data, since they are collecting it from diverse sources for studies? Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do understand.
Okay.
You are done with your question?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
done. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that the quality of the data first, when you are doing primary data collection, it is very important of the person who is collecting the data to not intervene with the information that has been said. For that's why it is very important to do like a training at the beginning for the people who will be collecting the data. For example, you will have a team of investigators that will be going to the people and reporting the information said. It should be transcribed, not interpreted, because you need to type in exactly what the person said. So that's why you need to, that's how you can make sure that that there isn't, you didn't lose a bit of data while reporting it, or you didn't interpret it in a different way, because the role of the reporter is not to write what they understand from the information, but to write exactly where the information is. And this is a place, like the phase where usually we lose part of the data, and it can intervene with the quality of data we are using. But there is also the understanding of the question from the other side. If there is any reformulation of the question, if you are talking, I'm always talking in the setting of human subjects and the social sciences aspect. If there is a reformulation of the question, it should be also mentioned in the reporting. They couldn't understand this question, so we try to explain it. And this is so we can understand that the answer is coming from this wording of the question, not the original one, but we try to not do rewording and reformulation in the field, so we can be aligned with the other investigators if we are collecting in in multiple settings with different people. I hope it answered the question.
So we're going to take one last question before we go into the breakout rooms. So Hajar, please, after this last question that you're going to answer, because we have just 3 minutes before we start the breakout rooms. So after this next question you're going to answer, please reiterate on what you want each room to, discuss on. And the breakout rooms will be open, and they will have opportunity to, select any rooms that they want. So Ungo Winston, please unmute yourself.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ngu Winston from Cameroon. I wish to ask that when you collect your data, example, maybe you collect data on symptoms. On symptoms, you know that you can have multiple symptoms. So if somebody says they have fever, stomach ache, a headache, how do you present that on a frequency table? How do you present that on if multiple people tick multiple responses? I'm speaking about multiple responses. So if you have many people who tick multiple responses, how do you present that on a frequency table? I've always had difficulties with that, so I just want to hear your own take on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think it depends on if your question has options. For example, you know that the symptoms you'll be asking your participants are, for example, a list of 15 symptoms, and each time the person checks one symptom, at the end you will have you can do like a very easy descriptive analysis of which symptom mentioned how many times on the range of participants, and you can make a graph for that. and sometimes which will need more analysis from you will be if you have an option of other, so a symptom that is not mentioned above, and you have, for example, only 1 or 2 people who mentioned a very specific symptom that you didn't consider in your questions above. You will say that we had 2 answers who had, for example, this specific symptom, and it can be explained in this setting, and you will do further analysis for this specific one. But if you have already options, it can be it will be like just number of participants and number of symptoms analysis. It wouldn't be complicated, but if you have an other, you will have more like a qualitative like analysis of that symptom.
Great. So we have come to the end of the first session of the Q&A session. I know that we still have other questions in the chat. I would be picking from them randomly, but that would be only after the breakout rooms. So Aja, what are the instructions for them to, work on the breakout rooms? Because they are only going to have 10 minutes before everybody would start, coming back into the room to tell us what they have discussed in their rooms.
Okay, so you will need to pick a research question. It shouldn't be very a real research question, but research question, 3 questions that will be asked in a focus group interview. You choose the setting, like the question grid that you would have, just 3 initial questions and 1 problem that you can face and how you will solve it. Or let's just 2 questions. You agree on one on your topic, 2 questions and 1 problem and 1 solution for that problem that can happen in the field. Just very, very easy, superficial, so you can just think of challenges, because the most important one here is the challenges, not the design of questions, but the challenges that can happen in the field.
Okay, so we are going to open the breakout room for 12 minutes because the last training session, they were able to go into rooms and they were just asked to select topics, like to decide on topics. And it looked like it took them a little bit of time to get that. So we are going to give you 2 minutes extra. So that's 12 minutes. Once you start, you do not have to be in the room with the same set of people you were with in the last training. This is just at a random. So you would be allowed to select any breakout rooms you want. We have 13, but make sure that you don't join any team that there are more than 10 there. And make sure that whatever topic you're discussing has to be directly related to climate change, not just general health research. So make sure that your topic and whatever you're discussing is directly related to climate change and health research. So the breakout rooms have been created. You would be able to pick any room randomly, but make sure that you do not join a room that has more than 10 people on it. So you guys have 12 minutes before you will be called back into the main room. Good luck. So I can see that some people are having troubles joining some of the breakout rooms. So I would start assigning you randomly as well. So if you are having any form of issues, just indicate I would be able to see your name here. Then make sure that at the end of your session, you have someone from your group representing your team that will just randomly speak about what you discussed in your team. Abdurrahman? So welcome back, everybody. I believe that you all had amazing conversations. So we are going to give your representative, the representative of your room, 1 minute to talk about what you discussed in your room. So please make sure that you go straight to the point. So I want each one of the representative of the teams to indicate by the show of hands, and you will be asked to unmute. And then you are going to state your name, where you're joining from, your room number, and then you would go into what you have to say for just 1 minute. So I'm gonna wait while all of you show your hands. Okay, so Ungu Winston, you have 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I am from Cameroon, as I earlier mentioned.
We can't hear you again, Winston. Okay, Gabriel Aseka, you can go on. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Gabriel Aseka from Kenya. I hope you can all hear me, right?
Yes, you're audible.
Great. I was in group 10, and we came up with a question, and I'd like to read it. And here it is. What are the effects of, what are the health risks associated with extremely high temperatures on people living with disabilities? So at this point, people living with disabilities, we agreed that there are people who are living with albinism. And so the questions that we raised were, what health challenges do you suffer as a result of extreme temperatures? And then the other question was, have you been exposed to extreme temperature in the past year? And then if yes, what health issues did you face? Please describe. Yeah. For the challenges, we were still discussing on them before our time was over. But I think we did reach that point. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. I think I really like the topic. I have one small comment about the question. Try to avoid I understand that it's a matter of time, but try to avoid like the please describe and have like a very open question answer for the questions, because it will be much more challenging for the analysis phase. So try to narrow down your questions so your answers will be very specific, and the series of questions will give you an answer at the end. But make sure that you don't have very large text. For example, if it's a survey, try to give the word count for your answers.
Okay, Mike Moale, introduce yourself, where you're joining from, and your room number. So you have just 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Mike Moale, and I'm from Zambia. So I was in group 7, and the topic that we chose was the impact of air pollution on respiratory health in urban areas. And we came up with 2 questions. And the first question is, what are the factors that influence air pollution in urban areas? And the second question was, how does long-term exposure to air pollution affect or influence the prevalence of respiratory diseases? So we did not go through the next segment, which was focusing on the challenges and the solutions due to time. We were just starting to just have the conversation around that. And so we're unable to just come up with the challenges and also just a solution. But however, this is where we ended as a group in terms of identifying the questions and also the topic. Thank you.
Hajar, do you have any comments for them?
Thank you. No, I think I don't have a comment, but yeah, maybe for the research question, the air pollution in urban settings is an area that is very much explored. And if you would like to narrow down your research questions, try to look into specific communities, age groups, or just people with certain health conditions. So this is just an idea of determining a research question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hajar. So Derek Kimani, please follow the instructions that we've laid down. So please unmute yourself in 1 minute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. My name is Derek Kimani. I believe, I don't think this was decided, but I believe I was being nominated to speak on behalf of Breakout Room 3. And what was decided was, or as our topic was, impact of climate change on agriculture. And some of the questions that we tried to develop was, how has climate affected, and with respect to agriculture, we just tried to narrow it down to the food and food production, especially. And so we talked about how has climate change affected food quality. And we also spoke of how has climate change affected food quantity. And in trying to proffer some solutions, we try to analyze what sustainable farming practices or agricultural practices can be employed to mitigate the impacts of climate change on agriculture in respect to food quality and food quantity.
All right. Thank you so much, Derek. Cynthia, you were next. Please, your name, your breakout room. You have just 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. My name is Cynthia, right? And I'm from Nigeria. We had a title we had to choose. We debated, and the title was The Influence of Air Pollution on Respiratory Health in Urban versus Rural Communities. We're doing a comparative analysis on this, both urban and rural. So we needed to understand what we are going into. So we had a description of the research, and what we had here was that the research project aims to compare the impact of air pollution on respiratory health in urban and rural communities. And we are going to be taking into account the different sources of pollution and the population characteristics in each settings. And the study we are going to have here will involve collecting air quality data, conducting respiratory health assessments, and surveying residents to understand the prevalence of the respiratory conditions And we are going to be looking at respiratory conditions such as asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and in both the urban and the rural areas,
Sorry,
because we want to be
sorry.
this.
Hello, Cynthia.
The
Can you
focus
hear me?
questions are there. Yeah, please. Yes, please.
Sorry, I will have to cut you short there because our time is fast spent and we still have 4 more groups to go. So, Aja can make a collective
Let me just give you
comment.
one focus group.
Yeah. So Aja can make a collective
Can I give a
comment.
focus group?
What did you say?
The focus group question, we asked, what are your perceptions of the resource?
Ongo Winston, you're next. I'm so sorry, Cynthia, I had to cut you off because we have very limited time and we need to go through all the other groups as well. So, Ongo, please unmute yourself and you have less than 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will be quick. So the topic is the impacts of climate change on farmers' productivity in sub-Saharan Africa. That was our topic we chose. So for the first research question was, how have changes in the timing and pattern of seasons, did rainfall, temperature affected the quantity and quality of crop yields over the past years? And then for the second question, we asked the participants that how have you adapted to climate change with respect to the farming season? Like which crops have you chosen, and how have your activities changed? So for the problems that we could encounter in the field, it was suggested that low literacy level of or language barriers among the farmers can be a problem. And for the solution, we said we will try to use local trainers, enumerators, and also simplify the questionnaires, and also try to use visual aids if that was necessary. So I think I'm winding this up, but that was what we decided in our group. And room 4, that was the group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winston. Patrick, please, you're up next. You have less than 1 minute.
Thank you. So a group 13, our topic we suggested assessing the impact of climate change on malaria prevalence in sub-Saharan Africa. So in terms of designing the questionnaire, we said do a sort of a cross-sectional study whereby we get information on the location and demographic data first. Then look at the prevalence of malaria in those different areas for a time period named, say, from 2020 up to date. Then we also focus on other factors which may have resulted in rise in malaria prevalence so that we can really see the significant factors which cause the prevalence in malaria. So assess also the interventions which are made along the timeline to see the effectiveness of the interventions which were made when the prevalence was noticed. In short, that's what we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. That was sharp. We are going to take Nasiru. I can see another hand raised up. Unfortunately, we might not be able to get to you today. So Nasiru, you have less than 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It's Nasiru from Nigeria. I think our title we decided on was the impact of climate change on the livelihood of fishermen living in coastal areas. The questions we came up with, do you know what climate change is and what are peak fishing periods in the area? And one problem we envisaged was communication gap in speaking with the fishermen in English on what climate change is. We didn't know what climate change is in English. And the solution we came up with was asking the questions in the local dialect or local languages, explaining what climate change is in the local language that is in the coastal area. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nasiru. So Aja, do you have any collective comments for them in like 1 minute before we close?
Yeah, thank you all for all the participants who presented your discussions, and thank you, Nasiru, for bringing up the translation point I forgot to mention. When you design, this is like a final comment for everyone, when you design the research questions and you know that the communities you are going to have different languages, try to create multiple versions of the questionnaire in different languages, and make sure that you are not losing the meaning of your initial question in translation, because after you collect all the data, you will translate it again all to like the working language and do the analysis. But this is a very important point of translation of the question, so you can have easier communication with the participants and the communities. But yeah, overall, thank you so much. There is some great research topics that I would like to read if it's
definitely
if it comes out. Yeah, definitely.
That is so nice, Hajar. Thank you so much once again for joining us. Really appreciate your time, your effort to be able to put this together and disseminate this information to all the participants. So please post your contact information. You can put everything in the chat, so if anybody wants to connect with you and ask you further questions. And we're really so sorry for all the other questions that we couldn't take in the chat, but you know, they can always forward all that to you. So thank you so much, Hajar.
Thank you.
Okay, so finally we are coming to the end of the training session for today. We do have our Meta poll that has been posted on the chat time and time again. So please check the chat, and I will also try to post the link now. Just click on the link and just let us know what you think about the session. We would love to know what idea you have. If you feel that you don't have too much words to say, just put in one word. That is enough for us. So we have officially come to the end of this meeting. And for those that have questions about the program, you can stay back, and then for like 5 minutes, we'll take more of your questions. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Hajar, and you will definitely get the link to the recordings if you want to catch up later. If you want to share your contact information on the chat or your LinkedIn for everybody to connect to you, please do that. And also do not forget to engage with all of our postings across all social media platforms, Oath for Sustainability Network, across all social media platforms. So thank you so much, everybody. Please have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much for the organization. I shared my LinkedIn on the chat. If you have any questions later on the research, or you just want to connect, I'll be happy to do so. And good luck, everyone, in your research. It will be a long but rewarding journey. Thank you for the organization.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hajar. Bye-bye.
Bye.